Welcome to this week's edition of the Week in Triathlon. See you on the other side of the intro for the rest of this week's news. In the international news front, Ironman has announced a major upgrade to its competition rules that take immediate effect. This relates specifically to mechanical fraud, or as it's otherwise known, mechanical doping. What's happened is that Ironman has teamed up with the UCI's Technical Commission to ensure that the latest technological advances are available at all events across the world, including championship events. Ironman will be testing bikes post-ride, that's effectively in T2. This is really easy to do in events like, say, for instance, Kona, where as the athletes come in off the bike leg, they hand their bike over to a technical official. So it'll be really easy to do the mechanical doping testing there. And with the type of preliminary scanners that the UCI has already got in operation, that we've seen at the events like Liège-Bastogne-Liège, where the technology that the UCI is using, it looks sort of like an iPad with a heat sensory camera on it, and all they do is they take the iPad, scan it over the bike frame, and it'll pick up, the heat sensor will pick up and register on the iPad screen any heat sources that are picked up from the frame, which the technical officials will be able to see whether it's heat source coming from a normal area of frame flex, or if it's something that's a really hot heat source, like something that would be coming from a motor that's been pushing out 200 watts. So that's the technology that's being used as the preliminary test at the moment, and I suspect that at events like Kona, the pro bikes will have more detailed testing as a rule of thumb, because the pros don't come in as thick hordes as what the age groupers do at Kona. When the age groupers are coming into T2, it's absolute mayhem. But the pros, especially the elite pros, as they start coming in, they tend to come in 2s, 3s, or 5s, something like that, with a nice gap between them. That makes the testing really, really easy. Then also on the international news front, be sure to mark your calendar for next week, Tuesday, the 10th of May. That's the day that's been set up by STRAVA as the International Commute to Work Day. You are encouraged to use your bike to commute to work and upload that ride to STRAVA. The data under the hashtag commutes count will be used to lobby for better cycling and pedestrian infrastructure in all cities across the world. So get out there on your bike, do your commute to work on Tuesday the 10th, upload it to Strava, make sure you include the hashtag commutes count, so that this data can help you get better cycling infrastructure in your town or in your city, wherever you may live. Now for Ironman news. Ironman have announced the finalists for the host city of the Ironman 70.3 World Championships for 2018. The 3 finalists are Nice in France, Budapest, Hungary, and Port Elizabeth, South Africa. From my own personal perspective, I would say Port Elizabeth, South Africa has absolutely zero chance of being selected. Absolutely zero. And the reason why I'm saying that is that just last week there was a speech made by the South African sports minister in government, and that's Mr. Fikkie Malula. And what Fikkie Malula stated was that any sport that does not have a minimum of 80% participation within South Africa may not host a World Championship event in South Africa. Now, I know, and all the South African triathletes know, there is no ways that triathlon in South Africa is anywhere close to 80% black participation. And without 80% black participation, the government of South Africa, the sports ministry of the government of South Africa, is going to veto any attempts to put on a World Championship event. In other words, the government will veto any permissions to utilize roads and infrastructure as far as the World Championship event is concerned. So there's no ways that Ironman International is going to be beating their head up against a brick wall as far as the South African government is concerned, while there are countries like Budapest and Nice ready to put on the event. From my perspective, my gut feel is that the final result will in all likelihood go to Nice, simply because it's easy to get to from various parts of Europe. The weather in Nice is way more stable than what it tends to be in Budapest, and international airport just a couple of minutes outside it's a major international airport just minutes outside the city, and superb hotel accommodation for officials and athletes right on the doorstep of where the event will be starting and finishing. So that's my take on the matter as far as the likely candidate city for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships that's going to be taking place in 2018. Now let's take a look back as far as what happened last weekend in the world of Ironman. As far as Ironman results from last weekend, there were no less than 5 events, but only 3 of those events had pro races. So let's just get the other ones out of the way first. There was an Ironman 70.3 in Port Macquarie in Australia. There was no pro athletes racing in that event. Then the Ironman 70.3 in St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands, again zero pro athletes taking part in that event. So of the remaining 3, you had the full length Ironman Australia. That the ladies' race there was won by Beth Girders of Australia, while Tim Reed of Australia picked up the men's title. Then moving on to the Ironman 70.3 in Busselton, Western Australia, Annabel Luxford of Australia picked up the ladies' title, while Evergreen Craig Alexander, also of Australia, won for the men. Then the final 70.3 from last weekend was in Provence in France, and Tini Deckers of Belgium won in the ladies' race, while Bertrand Billard of France won in the men's division. Looking ahead to this coming weekend in the world of Ironman, there are 3 events to be looking forward to. There is on Saturday the 7th of May, we start off with the Ironman Mallorca. Ironman 70.3 Mallorca, superb event. I'm not out there this weekend. I'm hoping to get back out there next year. We'll see how the beginning of next year unfolds. So Ironman 70.3 Mallorca, Spain, this week Saturday, the 7th of May. Also on Saturday the 7th of May, you've got the North American Pro Championships, and that's happening in St. George, Utah, as obviously the USA, while on Sunday the 8th of May will be the Ironman 70.3 Vietnam. Now onto the world of the challenge family. There is absolutely zero new news once again on the challenge family website or on their Twitter feed. I've got no idea what they're doing as far as their public relations department is concerned, but it's certainly not putting out any news information. Last weekend there were no challenge family events that took place, while this coming weekend we've got 2. On Saturday the 7th of May, you've got a full and a half challenge taking place in Taiwan, while on Sunday the 8th of May there is a half challenge in Rimini, Italy. In the world of Xterra, the big news there is that this weekend Xterra has all 3 major continental tours in action this weekend, with events in Greece, Malaysia and Brazil. As far as last weekend's racing was concerned, 0 international Xterra events took place, and as I mentioned earlier, this weekend you've got on Saturday the 7th of May there's Xterra Malaysia, then there's also Xterra Greece and Xterra Brazil, and I'm stating them in that order because with the way we move through time zones, that's the time sequence that all those various events will be taking place. And finally, the ITU. The big news in ITU is that this weekend coming up now is the final weekend that athletes will be able to earn qualification points to be able to get into the triathlon event at the Rio Olympic Games. So after this weekend, no more points count towards qualifying for Rio. After this weekend, the only points that athletes can gather will be the points that will be helping to decide what their start position is on the starting pontoon. But and because this is the last weekend for possible qualification, the ITU World Cup will be hosting 2 events over the course of this weekend. As far as a look back to last weekend, there were 0 World Triathlon Series and 0 World Cup events that took place last weekend. However, this weekend it's all action stations, with Saturday the 7th of May being a ITU World Cup taking place in Huatulco in Mexico, while on Sunday the 8th of May there's going to be an ITU World Cup taking place in Cagliari, Italy. And just remember that the village of Cagliari is on the island of Sardinia. That brings us to the end of this week's edition of the Week in Triathlon. Remember to click the thumbs up button if you like the content, share it out amongst your friends. Remember to hit the subscribe button down as well, and also any comments, questions, criticisms you may have, by all means post those in the comment section down below. If you're wanting to know more about the Coach Edo platform, feel free to send me a message through my website or through my YouTube channel, and I'll be answering all those questions to the very best of my ability. Remember that by subscribing, you'll be getting my daily content that comes out on this channel, as well as each Friday's Week in Triathlon direct to your email inbox. Remember, stay carved up for the win. See you next time. Cheers.
CoachEdu.net